Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me for the webinar. It's already 5, so we'll get going. I think we already have a good number of participants right now, and we'll wait. I think other people will join in between. So, just to start, my name is Divyanshu. I'm leading the strategic alliance and partnership at KredX. And the reason why we wanted to have this kind of webinar, especially with our business partner community, was we thought of three ideas. One is obviously talking about the current market situation, especially in the COVID times. This is the feedback that we have got from businesses working with us, what we have seen in the market, and other, financial, in talking to other financial institutions as well. The second is KredX in terms of its product and its style of working has evolved in last 1 year or so. We have had multiple new products. We are covering a complete plethora of, starting by SME, MSME, mid-market corporate as well as corporate clients. So I want to talk through those products which are actually suitable for businesses. And third, which is kind of the most important discussion I want to have specifically for the business partner community, is how you can collaborate with us, how together we can work to help out your clients in terms of what KredX is offering, and how we can engage with us, and how we can help out each other in terms of reaching out to these businesses, helping them manage their cash flow through what KredX is offering. So the idea is I'll run very fast through the presentation. Any question, any doubts that you have along the webinar, you can just put it in the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen. And at the end of the webinar also, you can put your questions, obviously. And I'll try to take a maximum question as possible end of the webinar, so that any queries that you might have that get resolved. Any question remains unanswered, our team will definitely get back to you post this webinar to answer them. Right. So we want to talk about managing cash flow and liquidity through the new age solution partnerships. Right. So I'll start with what kind of impact we are seeing of COVID on the businesses. We have multiple vendors or the corporates working with us right now, and we have had kind of discussion with them how kind of COVID has affected their businesses. So for maximum of them, it's very negative, especially when it comes to cash flow. For vendor, it's kind of stuck at the buyer level only. They're focusing more on the collection rather than focusing on the new consignment right now, because that cash flow is kind of critical for them to survive in the long run also, and obviously pay out their suppliers or their traders from which they're procuring the material for providing the ultimate buyer. So some threats are so severe that especially for small businesses who do not have kind of, you can say, robust cash flow management strategy, they are on the verge of, you can say, closure. Next, they have a run rate of cash flow of next 3 months maximum. Many of these before the lockdown had multiple consignment already, uh, prepared and stored in their warehouse. But when the time came to, in terms of logistically arranging that consignment to given to the buyer, because of lockdown, they did not had sufficient logistical arrangement, because of which they're not able to provide the consignment to the right buyer. Dip in orders, that's kind of very natural. What we are seeing right now in the market, the demand has gone down more in terms of consumer demand, as well as that has kind of affected the business demand also. So in the past 3 months, no big orders or no steep order has come for the existing vendors or the suppliers. So that's kind of affecting that their, whatever they had planned in terms of their growth, whatever they had planned in terms of whatever cash flow, management they had envisaged for this year. That's getting hampered a lot. So COVID-19 is not just limited to the businesses, right? It has some very macroeconomic effect globally as well. But India, it's kind of, maybe you can say, at the epicenter of it. You must remember that start of the COVID, when we started with the lockdown, IMF predicted maybe a small bit of growth in the Indian economy. But if you see the recent revised figure, it's kind of negative 4.5% what they have predicted the Indian economy to degrow actually. And what we see because of this, bank or traditional NBFCs are much more skeptical to even lend out any money. They are thoroughly following their due diligence against even the collateral. They don't really want to give disburse out even 80 to 90% of the total collateral value. And for them, liquidity is definitely an issue. They're focusing more on collection rather than new loan disbursement. So that kind of affect the business directly, which are already dealing with the demand disruption because of the COVID-19. So because of all these effects, there is a decent increase in the working capital gap between what businesses actually need even to sustain, and survive, and what is actually being offered by different financial institutions, especially bank and NBFCs. So considering all this, I think it's very critical for any SME specifically or MSME to have a robust cash flow management strategy in place. This is only possible if they are able to, analyze what are the expenses or what are the uncalled expenses that they can, churn out, and they have to vision out something that if they are able to survive for next 6 months, and when the demand is almost 80% of what they had almost 3 months back, they'll be back to normal. But surviving is kind of very critical right now, and that can happen only if they're able to control their cash flow, and have a proper strategy in place. So there's obviously a need of capital, whether COVID or non-COVID times, right? Somebody has to have a seamless business operation. They have to cater to the demands. In terms of long-term growth, also they have to have capital so that for various parameters, like procurement, paying the laborers, new factory, etc. That kind of helps in their business growth as well. I want to touch specifically on two kind of capital, to say, because this is something that, in a way, what KredX is also offering with our products. So one is the working capital, and second is the growth capital. Working capital, as the name suggests, used for the businesses for day in day out operational activities, operation payouts like payroll, account receivable, etc. Growth capital is more like the capital required for businesses for expansion plans, set up new equipment, set up new factory, hire more people in terms of labor, etc. Right? So what we see again, like I talked about, bank and NBFCs are going to be very rigid in terms of what they're offering. There is definitely going to be a liquidity issue specifically for NBFCs and bank. Alternative lending, that's why I want to introduce to you what exactly KredX is offering. We have more than enough liquidity right now. Any vendor or any supplier that kind of requires working capital, we are providing that, and the process of onboarding is also very seamless and hassle free. It's all digital. We're not collecting any physical documents. So any vendors can get onboarded with KredX in very short period of time and get the working capital against whatever arrangement of invoices or maybe agreement that they have in place. So with this, I'd like to, in a formal way, introduce KredX to you. Majority of you might also be knowing about KredX. We were actually established in 2015. We have come a long way in, we've in fact invoice discounted almost 5 lakh invoices till now. Essentially, what we do is we provide provide the we bridge the gap between payables, receivables for any vendor against their invoices or against an agreement that they have stuck. What we provide is kind of a technological platform. On one leg, we have vendor who are raising invoices on large or medium-sized corporate. We are providing invoice discounting to them. That's invoice discounting is one of the flagship products that KredX has. Second is, on the other leg, we have investors on board our platform. So when I talk about liquidity, these are the investors who are responsible for providing liquidity in terms of whatever invoice discounting on the funding happens to the suppliers. So these are healthy portfolio, almost 10,000 investors, which are like HNI, Ultra HNI, financial institution, NBFCs, etc. So in terms of KredX offering for the business, so when I say business here, it's more meant towards SME, MSME, and mid corporate clients. I'll talk about corporate offering in a later stage. So one is invoice discounting, and second is the KredX Plus, what we are offering to these mid corporate or SME clients. So invoice discounting is plain and simple instrument. It's entirely collateral free one. So for example, a supplier raises an invoice to the corporate. Corporate says that the invoice is unpaid and genuine. What the vendor does or supplier does is he places that invoices onto the KredX's platform for discounting. So within half an hour, 20, 30 minutes, the invoice gets discounting and the fund is transferred to the supplier within 24 to 72 hours in the working capital or the CCOD limit, whatever working capital he's already taken the same bank account. So like the external investors provide this working capital or the fund that is being given to suppliers within 24 to 72 hours. So this is how typically invoice discounting, which is kind of the flagship product for us, works. So again, talking about the USPs that we have in terms of this product is entirely collateral free. We're not asking for any security. We're not creating a charge for any asset of the vendor. We have very seamless process for onboarding the vendor. One, second, whenever the vendor is listing the invoices onto the platform, they're getting the money within 24 to 72 hours. So that's kind of an upside for them, because I mean, as early as they get the money, they're able to utilize that in whatever way they wanted to. We are helping out almost 15,000 business. We have helped out almost 15,000 businesses till now, and like I said, almost 5 lakh invoices has been discounted on the KredX's platform. The most important thing for business partners is kind of the local presence. So we have, especially in metro presence, pan India. We are also in tier 2 cities. Maybe through the website you can understand which location we are present. And if not, I mean, pre-COVID time, we are open to travel. For now, it's kind of curbed to a limited interaction. But that's kind of presence that we have pan India. Right. The second product, like I talked about, KredX Plus, more like a growth capital product. And what we are offering here is kind of a solution to businesses who have kind of recurring revenue from, let's say, rental income, or maybe a recurring kind of payout against their equipment, right? Or we have a warehouse, you have leased out that warehouse to an entity, and that entity is paying you month on month. So rather than getting payout month on month, what we do is we discount the entire, let's say, 18 to 24 months period of rental that you are supposed to get today, and give you the money upfront. So now you can utilize, or the business can utilize that money for the expansion plan as a growth capital, whatever they had. And on behalf of the vendor, or the supplier, we start collecting that rental payments. So this is how we are helping out businesses in terms of growth capital. This is something similar to, you can say, invoice discounting, but in spite of the invoice here, it's more like an agreement that is in place. Long-term agreement, say 6 months to 24 months. So the supplier approaches us with the requisite documents, in which agreement being the most important one. We list that agreement along with our underwriting due diligence process onto the platform. And again, we have investors who kind of buy out and provide fund to the vendor or the supplier. And the same TAT we are following here, within 24 to 72 hours, you're providing the fund to the businesses, right? So this was about SME mid corporate clients. We have solution for corporate clients as well, which are large enterprises. So any of you who have connect at good finance or CFO level at good corporates, these are 3 products that we have that can actually suit the corporate. And in fact, we are working with a lot of corporates under these different products also. So one is a payable discounting, second is a receivable discounting, and third is KredX Early. KredX Early is more like a software as a service kind of solution. It's an early payments technology. So I'll just first touch upon the payable discounting for corporates. So this is about providing an extended credit tenor for the corporates. So let me just give you an example. Let's say a corporate is supposed to pay to their vendors in 60 days. Right? So what happens is KredX come into picture, and KredX pays out their vendor in 60th day. Now the corporate can pay back to the KredX in another 60 days. So effectively what we are doing is we are increasing the credit tenor for the corporate and helping them out in terms of managing their cash flow and in terms of managing their working capital. So this is specifically for the enterprises who are kind of decently large, have good reputation in terms of paying back their vendors. So this is how we function. So KredX is paying out service provider to this enterprise, which could be suppliers, which could be warehouse, which could be logistics. So KredX is paying out all these service provider on the due date. Now we are providing the extended timeline for enterprise to pay back to the KredX. This helps out the corporate in terms of the much needed working capital solution for them. Like I talked about the advantages, it helps in extending the credit tenor. It improves the business efficiency for the corporate. Plus, since the supplier of the corporate are getting the money from KredX on the due date, they have kind of good supplier relationship. There's no delay in terms of paying out the unpaid invoices that the supplier has raised to them. And the ultimate goal for everyone, like healthy cash flow management, is something that the corporate is also looking through this product. Second is receivable discounting, is nothing but invoice discounting for all the suppliers of the corporate on behalf of the corporate. So let's say you have a corporate, you have 100 vendors, corporate says, like, why don't you onboard the interested vendors or the suppliers that I have onto your invoice discounting platform. And these are the people, or these are the suppliers that we enlist on their invoices against the same corporate, we list onto the platform, and our investor in a way fund these suppliers against their unpaid invoices. So it's like the same as invoice discounting, only in this case the corporate is helping KredX out in a way, or helping their suppliers out in getting the money up, rather than having to wait for 60 days, getting the money upfront from KredX's invoice discounting platform. Again, this is same upside as invoice discounting. It's entirely collateral free. We have digital onboarding and quick disbursement of fund in this. Right, KredX early is kind of an interesting product. It's more like an early payment technology that we have. So effectively, it's a software product that integrates with the ERP of the corporate. What it does essentially is it pulls out all the invoices that a particular corporate's vendor must have raised on that particular corporate. So let's say corporate ABC are 100 vendors. These 100 vendors have raised one invoices each on this corporate. What we do through the ERP integration, pull out all these 100 invoices, tell to the corporate that these are still unpaid invoices in which maybe you have to pay to the vendor in 40 days, 50 days, 60 days, whatever. Why don't you, if you have surplus treasury in your system, why don't you pay out these vendor upfront rather than them having to wait for another 40, 50 days? And these vendor can provide you some discount. So that's kind of some kind of price discovery, you can say, and an opportunity for the corporate to utilize their corporate treasury, if they have surplus fund, to pay out their vendors only against some discount. And let's say if they have limited treasury through which they're able to pay not 100 vendors, 20 vendors only, rest 80 they can refer or give to KredX for onboarding again onto our invoice discounting platform. So this is how KredX early works. The process is very simple. The corporate receives the supplier invoices. Supplier provides a particular discount that he's ready to give on the invoice in return for an early payment. Corporate uses their treasury. Now, the important thing here is corporate right now, how they are deploying the treasury is more in liquid funds or FD, which is hardly giving them any rate of 5 to 7%. And the rate return through this kind of price discovery or the discounting platform is much higher. I'll talk about that in the next slide. So corporate deploys its treasury to make payment to these suppliers. Supplier obviously benefits getting the money early, and they are able to, again, churn their cash flow for better business propositions. And corporate is making a good return in terms of, first, it's entirely risk-free because it's their own vendor, and the return is also very good. So like I said, the return is almost around 16% against, maybe if you compare that with FD or liquid funds, or 7 to 8% maximum in this scenario. It's completely zero risk investment because it's corporate's own supplier, and the corporate itself is procuring the material for them. They complete control over the earnings. It's a cloud-based algorithm. The software is kind of very robust in its activity in terms of UI and user friendliness that the software has. Suppliers are satisfied because of getting the early payments. We have close to our corporate 100 plus corporate right now onboarded onto this this kind of software. So it's not just limited to Indian scenarios. It's a global kind of scenario because it's just about software as a product integrating with the ERP and then pulling out the invoices. Right. So this was all on the business side that I talked about. The last thing that I want to touch before I come to the business partner association is the investor part. Like I said, we are a platform. On the one hand, we have businesses. On the other hand, we have investors who are in a way providing funds or liquidity to these businesses. Why I want to touch base upon this is because if you have, apart from the businesses, you have any investor, any HNI, ultra HNI who might be in a way interested, or you yourself are interested to invest into KredX's platform, this is an idea to give it to you what we are providing in terms of you being an investor onto the platform. So what we say, it's kind of alternate short-term investment product. All the invoices, all the deals that are listed on the KredX's platform are somewhere around 30 to 90 days. So it's a very short-term product. We provide a return of somewhere around 12 to 16% per annum to the investor. And it's kind of low risk because we are doing our own due diligence, and we are taking invoices to raise to only those corporate which are decently large and have a good reputation and cash flow balances. And this kind of analysis happens every month on month by the risk team, and they come out with new parameters and new approval or new rejection on the corporates that we are comfortable working with. This is a typical process. Let's say you are an investor, you logged onto the KredX platform. We have an app as well as dashboard access for the investor. What we do is on the dashboard, they can see any deal that is being listed. So anytime a deal is listed, a kind of email communication, as well as kind of a notification through the investor app also goes to the investor. They can choose basis their comfort and basis KredX score whether if they want to invest into a deal. Once they say yes, money from their escrow account, which is set up for each and every investor, money from the investor KredX escrow account is transferred to the vendor bank account within 24 to 72 hours. Right, on completion or on the due date, enterprise pays to the KredX's escrow account, and from that we are settling the payment for the investor, whatever money they have already put in, and plus the interest charges. If you talk about our current set of investors, we have close to, if you talk about the largest AUM, we have 100 CR. Average AUM is somewhere around 10 to 30 CR. And we have kind of democratization of invoice purchase kind of open for everyone. If you are comfortable or if you want to not purchase the entire invoice, that is totally up to you. We have some minimum criteria although, but we are open if you want to purchase the entire invoice, you want to partly buy the invoice. Right, and the number of invoices that we have onto the system are continuous, so you'll not be running out of any deals that your money is lying in escrow, and chances of utilizing that fund is very low. So that will not really happen. The final thing, because the business partner program I want to talk about, this focus is entirely in that. We think, we have seen also that business partner kind of the very important pillar for our business as well. More than 50 to 60% of our business is in a way helped out through our business partner only. So on and off, you'll see a lot of engagement happen from our side with you, maybe training you about the new products, kind of new offering that we have in the market, or how we can differently collaborate with each of the partners. Maybe we can have training session for your teams. Maybe we can provide you additional marketing collateral that you can in a way give to your potential client. And the idea about our business partner program is to make you train or make you understand in a way what KredX is offering, so that you are able to better represent KredX in front of the client, because ultimately your relationship with the client, that kind of matters for us as well. Right, so this is how it works. I think majority of you already know. You are join us through the we have a formal agreement in place how we onboard you. We provide you a login ID as well as password. You can create your own login ID, in fact, to see any deal that you want to refer to, or any vendor you want to refer to, or as well as the progress on that case, what is happening directly. You can log into your dashboard and see to it. Once you refer a client to us, we work with you in terms of onboarding the client. We keep you in all the communication. We route the communication through you. And once post onboarding, obviously the simple process of listing the invoices on the platform happens by the vendor, and then we discount and fund is disbursed again to the same vendor within 24 to 72 hours. So this is a simple process that I'm thinking all of you might already be aware. We already have created kind of a tab onto our website. If you open KredX.com, you can see partner with us tabs. If you go to business partner, you can register or sign in through your login dashboard. If you register in that, within 2 to 3 days, we'll reach out to you in terms of understanding what kind of collaboration we can do, how we can support you, and explaining you the agreement in place that we have for every business partner. Like, so the advantage that I want to particularly highlight, do you have in becoming a business partner with us, is we have kind of very attractive payout. Why I say attractive? Because if we have already done our market research in terms of banks and other financial institutions, what they are offering, ours is kind of on a higher side because of the credit line we are setting and because of the percentage of fee we are sharing with you. Second, we are providing, this is specifically only for business partner. We have a dedicated relationship manager that is designated to a business partner for any queries, any download that they need, and more in terms of any client that they onboard with a relationship manager. We provide tech aggregation also. This is about if you have like online presence, if you have your individual website, you can have kind of an API integration. You can showcase what KredX is offering. Any lead can flow from that to us, tag to you, obviously, in terms of the business partner. How your client benefit, our sanction limit would be very high. If you go to a bank and banking is providing, let's say 50 lakh worth of limit, our sanction limit would be anywhere in the range of 2 to 4 CR, depending on the cash flow that the business has with the corporate is supplying to. We provide obviously the access of working capital, and that's kind of critical right now. So one thing I want to highlight how KredX at this COVID scenario is different from traditional banks or FI or maybe other NBFC which are more like fintech NBFC is we have the liquidity. NBFC is kind of conservative more in their approach, like I said. And we have seen a lot of people working with other NBFCs coming to us on and off for asking for our facility because our invoices are getting bought by the investor within half an hour maximum. Right? Another advantage is entirely off balance sheet funding. So your vendor or your supplier is getting loan instead of, and it does not show, has to show that in a current liability on the debt section. So that's kind of in a way improving the balance sheet, the ratios in the balance sheet and getting the liquidity at the same time. And like I said, it's completely unsecured, uncollateralized based. So that kind of, does not create any kind of pressure on the vendor or the supplier to provide some kind of security and is what KredX is offering in terms of the business lines. So these are just some of the clients clients, or you can say the corporate that are working with us, or our vendors have raised invoices to these corporates sometime in the past, or they are continually raising invoices then. And these are just some. We have other big names also associated with us, who are vendors are directly raising the invoices, or we are direct connect with the corporate in terms of the payable discounting, the corporate product that I talked about earlier. Right. So we have multiple marquee investors who have backed KredX. If you see right now in the media, we have raised a Series B of 26 million very recently in December 2019, and that was primarily led by Tiger Global. We have Secure and Prime Venture Partners also as investor. So this is more to create kind of confidence for you also in terms of what is the backing of KredX and what are the credential of KredX, right? So yeah, I think that was pretty much from my side. What I can request you is I'll just wait for a minute, and you can post your questions onto the box, onto the question and answer Q&A box, and I'll take those one by one. We have the first question, which is the rate of interest. So basically, talking about the charges that KredX has, we are charging one-time platform fee. I'm talking about more in terms of invoice discounting right now. We are charging one-time platform fee, which is 2% annually, and that is charged on the credit line that we are providing to any vendor. Apart from that, that is for the first-time onboarding. And apart from that, within that credit limit, the vendor can raise as many invoices as possible, and then it's a kind of rolling limit. And the interest rate there is somewhere around, you can say per annum basis, 15 to 16, 17%, somewhere around that. So this is the rate of interest. It's for the vendor bill discounting. I think I've answered that. Will we get any writer which is discussed till now? Yes, absolutely. We have specific business partner presentation also. So that is kind of more in detail what we are offering into the market, and that will help you, to better represent yourself in front of your clients and answer the query as in there only. Okay, so what's the ticket size? Any preferred industry sector? So again, one more upside I missed, I think, talking about is we are open for service sector also. Our call is more on the corporate size. We're not specifically focusing maybe other financial institution on the manufacturing side. We are open for service sector much more. And ticket size, so as we are good to go providing a credit line of maybe as low as 10 lakh, and this could be as high as 15 CR for now. So 15 CR, when I say, that's on the higher side that we provide for a particular vendor, but this is only the COVID time kind of credit line that we have set up temporarily. Probably in the future, maybe 6 months down the line, that could be further increased. What are the responsibilities of the partner? So if you talk about responsibilities, it's more about, first you approaching your client, understanding their interest. Second, I would ascertain that what are the corporate that your vendor is supplying to. So once you are able to get that, you can check with us. You can share the list with us. We can tell you whether the corporate is approved or not. Let's say out of 6 corporates, 6 are approved, maybe 4 are approved. Then after that, we can approach the vendor together, make them understand the product, and then onboard them. So in terms of responsibility, you have to focus more on terms of explaining the initial conversation, explaining the initial invoice discounting to your client, and then checking on the corporate. And once the corporate is approved, we can work together to onboard your client. So that's the major responsibility that we expect from a business partner. Okay, so one question is business partner revenue pattern, of course. So we are charging PF, like I said, 2% on the credit line. We are sharing as high as 50% of this revenue with you. So just to give you an example, maybe on an average, we have set up a credit line of 3 CR for all our vendors. So that's the historical databases I'm giving. 2% of that if I'm charging, and 25% somewhere around, broadly you can say 2 lakh to 3 lakh rupees what I'm sharing with you per case. Okay. What are the responsibility of the partner, collection and default of the corporate? So as such, there is no liability or responsibility on partners because we are working with the vendor. We have a legal document signed with the vendor and one kind of undertaking with the corporate. So you, maybe if you have kind of a relationship with the vendor, you can probably act as a bridge. There's obviously no liability or no as such a documented responsibility on you, but you can help us out in terms of becoming a bridge between us and the vendor in terms of helping, asking vendor to recover the money in case there is a delay from the corporate side. Okay, I think I'm getting a lot of questions. One is minimum ticket size and maximum ticket size. Again, in terms of invoices we're talking about, we are not setting any minimum that of the invoice value that you can raise with us. If we talk about the credit line that we are setting for your suppliers or the vendors, we are doing as low as 10 lakh worth of credit line to as high as 15 CR. Okay. What all industry do you have blacklist? What all industry do we do? And do we have blacklist company? So in terms of industry, infrastructure and suppliers supplying to government entity except Maharatna and Navratna company, they're not doable. So again, repeating again, infrastructure, construction company and government entities except Maharatna and Navratna are not doable for us. Except that, every other industry is kind of open for us. Again, like I said, we are taking call on the corporate. The corporate is big enough. We are kind of industry agnostic apart from these three. And then if the corporate is approved, we are okay to do any industry as such. Do we have blacklist companies? Not as such. We do not really have those categories like we want to blacklist any company, etc. We kind of have approved or unapproved kind of scenario. There is these two scenarios in terms of the companies that we are working with. So yes, obviously there are a lot of companies which are unapproved because of their, not so good reputation, not so good cash flow right now in the market. One question is, will you look at the corporate balance sheet eligibility? Yes. So how we assess any corporate is through their balance sheet in a way. So if the corporate, generally earlier we had a criteria of almost 100 plus CR should be the turnover and triple B plus rated. But right now our focus is more towards, the balance sheet of the corporate, how much cash flow they have, how much in terms of, how they have been paying their vendor especially in the COVID times or before that. So even a 300 plus CR worth of turnover corporate can be approved through us. And since we have changed the parameter very recently, and I think so just to make things easier for you, you can share any corporate that you want to check for an approved or unapproved state with us, and within one day we'll come back to you whether the corporate is approved or not. So only domestic or exports also a minimum turnover. So we are currently into the domestic market only. We are helping out Indian vendors raising invoices on the corporates, not exactly into export right now, but we might in future, maybe, we had some plan, but because of the COVID, we have just put it in a back burner right now. We'll come back to you if there is any development on the export side as well. Minimum turnover, as such, we do not have minimum turnover in terms of the vendor. Since again, like I said, we are taking call majorly on the corporate, and that's kind of how we are, focusing right now. So if the corporate is good, I'm not really bothered much about the vendor, although there is some due diligence on the vendor side, but our major call is on the corporate. Okay, so are partners geographically restricted for bringing the leads? Absolutely not. If you have pan India presence, we are more than happy to work with you. You can give us leads from any part of India. Even if you're sitting somewhere in Bangalore or Chennai, if you're giving me leads for Delhi, I'm completely okay with that. There's no absolutely a geographical restriction for any partner. So one question, how to enroll as a business partner. So the easiest way is if you go to our website, KredX.com, you'll find partner with us tab. Just click on that and register yourself. And then once you register, providing the basic 3-4 details, we'll just reach out to you, onboard you in terms of agreement signing, in terms of explaining you the entire process, like I've already told you, but more in detail. Processing fee, we are charging processing fee as 2% on the credit line. So that is we do not really call it processing fee. We call it more in terms of the platform fee. And that's kind of the charge that KredX charges to the vendors. What's the tag time for a payout? We have a quarterly payout mechanism in place. So let's say Jan to March is 1 quarter. In first week of April, I come back to you. These are the vendors that you refer, and this is the platform fee that I collected from them, and this is kind of the share revenue sharing that you have accrued through us. Now you can raise your invoices. So it's kind of quarterly payout that we have with all the channel partners. Can you do import factoring? If so, which are the sector? No, we are not exactly into import factoring. It's more only on the domestic factoring side. I don't think we really have plan right now as such to come on the import factoring side as well. Any other queries? If you have any specific query that you think has been not answered here, obviously you can reach out to us directly as well. And any time you're working with your client also, they might also have a lot of queries. So we can obviously solve that at that moment in time. I'll just wait for another 30 seconds. And if there are no more questions, we'll just close the engagement. So one thing before close the engagement, one thing I want to highlight: our approach in the near future is going to be oriented. Engaged more towards business partner only. So you will see more and more such kind of engagement and activities happening from our side, because this is kind of the most important pillar for KredX right now. To also work with you, get your clients onboarded onto the platform, and then help them out also. And to remember, this is not just limited to SME, MSME, mid corporate. If you have any large corporates also, if you have good connects there, we have a kind of we have products for them also. Uh, Right. So, is there any fee charged every transaction apart from the one-time processing fee? Yes. The one-time processing fee is something that we take to onboard the client. When I say I have investor onto the platform, right? So there is some interest fee that the investors earn. That is something that we call discounting fee. So let's say give me an invoice of X rupees today. I'm charging some discounting fee over that, and then advancing you the remaining amount. Takes regular credit, then we get payout. Yes, I think it's depending on your client if they're taking regular credit. I understand they have some PF paid and basis that we are sharing a percentage with you. So I'm not really sure if I got the answer correct, but yeah. So we're sharing a revenue in terms of the PF, and that's kind of very healthy in terms of the quantum that we are sharing with the business partner. So again, like I think I should not really say this, but if you have in now, you can work with one client and refer as one client, get them onboarding, understand in terms of the payout that we are providing. I'm pretty sure you'll not be disappointed with us. Because again, like I said, kind of business partners is a very one of the most important marketing vertical for us. What will be the fee amount? If I understand this question clearly, this is talking more in terms of uh, fee amount that we are charging to the vendor, or I'll tell you exactly again the financial structure that we have. We are charging a platform fee of 2% on the credit line that we are giving out to the vendor, right? And a percentage of that, up to a maximum of 50%, we are sharing with you. I hope I'm able to answer that. These are the questions that I see on my screen right now. Any question, any further confusion that you have, you can always reach out to us. You can see on the partner with us page, the contact number also listed. So you can reach out to us at any point in time. We'll be more than happy to help you out in terms of and you understanding the product and helping out your client as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining in. I think we'll soon engage with maybe new products or new kind of offering that KredX might have. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.